we're back.
And we're back.
The intro music that is constantly going on in my head.
Oh, this?
Yeah.
While you practice,
I
have this
I
on?
told my friend that I'm like rarely depressed because that song is perpetually playing in my head.
It's awesome. Doesn't it make you happy all the time?
Yeah.
It's a song of being on a road. It's a travel song. That's how I hear it. Being on a train or being
Yeah,
on
dude.
a rickshaw.
I'm on my bike all the time. Like, car almost
cool.
hit me, but dude, this song is so fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're back for part 2. We sort of had like a pretty intense part 1. We touched upon a lot of cool stuff. Let's talk a bit about you, Yozef. Like, you're a yoga teacher, right? You teach Ashtanga?
I share my experience of teaching and practicing with other people. I don't teach anything.
Okay, interesting. I like that. Cool, man. Where are you like based? Are you based anywhere? Or you like travel the world or?
I would say I'm based in Tulum, Mexico right now.
Ooh, nice.
And yeah, I've been there for going almost 4 years now.
Okay.
And
Where were you before?
I was in New York prior to that.
So you're originally like from here, from New
Teaching?
York?
I'm originally from Israel.
Okay.
And then I came to New York in '95.
Okay.
And I stayed in New York until 2016. And then...
And now Mexico.
And now in Mexico.
Nice.
Así es.
And I guess you were facilitating yoga postures in both New York and in Mexico.
I like this.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a yoga facilitator.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking, because you're a teacher, and last time that we talked here, we were talking about like the drama of the human mind and how things have to play out in like repetitive cycles, and how you could do the same thing for freaking eons, and it will only until you're ready to change. That's how long it'll play out. But you have to wait for the readiness. And I was wondering if you like, what's it like for you to be a teacher and like watch your students play out these like dramas in their minds or even in their bodies? Like how do you deal with that?
I think it's a very general question. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do you have like a specific example or something? Like, you know, you ever like watch people? Because I know people can have like injuries or something and get stuck with a certain movement for a long time. Or like, how do you foster that?
Once you mention injury, then like or injury, I'm immediately thinking about my own practice and my injuries, but then through that, other people's injuries.
Yeah.
And I think injuries, like at least some of them, do arise from maybe a repetition of something that's not like. It's almost like it's something calling your attention that you're doing something in a way that maybe is not the adequate way to do it.
Yeah.
And so it might result in injury, which is basically something that's calling your attention to something that you've been ignoring. I mean, I think that's what an injury, like many like disease and stuff like that would be, is like your attention's being called in a way that you can't ignore it anymore.
Yeah.
Because that's the way the body talks. I mean, the body doesn't speak English; it speaks body. So.
Yeah, so
that's how we talk.
It's an intention. It's you know, and so I think like I was directed, and like I had to learn to work with my body while executing certain postures that were very challenging to begin with. They were very challenging, and then like having an injury, I had to and not quitting. I had to learn how to work with and around the injury. It was almost like what I'm thinking now, for example, is like, say, something specific. I'll think like, now it came to mind Marchasana D, for example, and that would have problems with my knee.
Yeah, so this is a posture where you take one leg
Let's
and you bend
describe
it.
Marchasana
Yes,
D.
Marchasana D, everyone's favorite fucker. You bend one leg into half lotus, and then you bend your other leg, and you bind your arms. You twist, and then you bind your arms around the bent leg while the other one's in lotus.
They're both bent.
Yeah, double bent. One is like
This
one
is
foot on
very
the
clear. I'm
ground.
sure
Yeah.
people are like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, of
that's-
course, that one.
Yeah.
The trippy labyrinth.
So, like if I had the knee that's half lotus is in pain, and like let's say I can't put it in half lotus, or I have a towel inside, right, while my knee's bent, so I can have a little bit more space in there, and I'm twisting, and the idea was that like okay, now that I need to lift. I need to basically, the whole idea was like to create space as much as possible. Like I think like in all the postures, like trying to create space as I'm trying to execute whatever it is that this posture is about. So if there is any pressure that's meant to be in there, applied somewhere, I try to maintain that pressure in that place, but not be like collapse completely where I'm applying a lot of pressure, let's say applying a lot of pressure on the knee. So as I need to lift a lot and move all my chest to the side as I'm twisting and not collapse everything. So I'm not squeezing anything, not squeezing my foot too much, not and as a result, the foot that's in half lotus, as a result, putting more pressure on the knee there. It's like it's learning to work around. In this case, it's around that knee that's bent that I'm using to twist around. So it used to be like you have a challenge here, and you need to approach it in a way that's a new way. You can't do it the old way anymore. So it had to be everything has to be supposedly slow down and like look at it with a magnifying glass of like, okay, what's going on here? What am I trying to achieve here? And how do I bypass in a way or work in a new way to achieve this? Because the old way is, at least for now, doesn't work anymore.
So you have to basically be super present.
Yes. You have to, it's like you can't just like, squish yourself into it. You have to like stop and like think what's going on here. Like literally, what is going on here? And that's another thing that like I'll use a lot when I'm working with people is that, and I realize that it's challenging, is that I'll tell them that like my understanding over time of the postures are that like part of it is that you need to be in many places at once. You need to be, your attention is concentration here is divided between multiple of things. It's not just like drishti. What is it? Drishti. You refer to asana. So it's like the asana itself is something that requires your attention in so many places because there's so many things happening at the same time. It's like you have to be in all your body at once. You have to be in the leg that's in the front, in the leg that's in the back. This one is outer. This part is rotating outwardly. While at this joint, it's internally rotating. While your leg is pushing down, while your chest is opening up. While this hand is pushing down. While this hand feels like it's being pulled up to the sky, right? And all of a sudden, this space is created, and you need to be in all these places at once, and breathing and drishti. Okay, so it's like
Which is the point of focus.
It's everything, and like, so like working with an entry would be exactly the same thing because again, it's like you don't want to stop breathing. You need to be really aware of what you're doing. So it's like it's not like you go through postures and you just do them. It's like. And that takes me back now, like to teacher training with Richard Freeman 100 years ago, where
wow, you look great for
where
Richard Freeman looks pretty great too. He's like ageless.
Now, why did I go there though? I went there for something.
Oh,
create space.
you get trained as a teacher.
No, I lost my line of thought, but it's okay.
It'll come back as they do.
It's about being.
With the body,
you have to be in all these places at once.
Yeah.
It's like you have to do it. You have to be everywhere at once. It's like here we go. Ta-da. You're in a yoga posture, a yoga posture. I said it's not a static thing. It's not like I'm in it, I achieved it, and now it's a passive thing. He always said like work it. So you work a posture. You work a posture, which means you're present to everything that's now.
Okay.
And you work it. You work
live.
that. You feel that shoulder rotating out. You feel that palm pressing on the ground. You are spreading your fingers here. You're opening the chest. You reach out. You push that leg back into the ground. You engage the leg I'm thinking Parshvakonasana now. You engage that leg, which means you're not collapsing into your hand that's on the floor. Your hand is only supporting, but actually you're holding all your weight on the leg as the back leg is pushing out. You're working this posture. You're not just like, okay, here I am. And I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And that breath also helps with that.
Absolutely.
Because as the
whole
breath
thing.
moves, you
it moves
work
and it expands and contracts. It's all this stuff happening there. So it's like it's a very and it's happening all the time. So it's like as you're moving through this thing, and I think I got entered a lot. Entries are basically a loss of attention.
Yes, like in ignorance, almost.
Yeah,
But I
that's
was
what it arises
thinking,
from.
for example, it might be simplistic, but all this attention that you have to put on your body and like be everywhere at the same time, and the breath, and isn't that like the reason why then your mind starts like focusing and like not going crazy places, and you start like chitta vritti nirodha, like you start cutting down the fluctuation? And
I think that's where things start like. But it's supposedly you're putting your attention on all these. It's like sitting and sitting to, I'm saying, quote unquote, like meditating, which is like you don't sit and meditate. You sit and breathe, right? It's like you put your attention on your breath, and then let's say like I used to practice this, sensation. So you're collecting sensations from your body. So you're putting your attention on real things. You don't engage in thoughts. The real things are like bodily sensations that are for real, and the breath coming in and going out. And that's where the focus is, and like something happens. So I think something happens in practice as you're practicing. Something then happens where you put the attention on all these things at the same time, and the real things that are happening, and all of a sudden something happens.
Yeah. The attention moves from the mind chatter into the body. And so ideally, what would happen in strengthening the attention is the decrease of injury in the body and in the life, because you get more awareness. Do you know, like when I asked you about how to work with people that are going through stuff, and you described your own injury, you said, oh, I have to think about what's really going on here. And so what you realize is that your value is actually in keeping your body healthy and not like promoting further injury, instead of trying to get your body into this contortionist wackadoo operation.
Yeah.
So then you start to learn to like respect yourself in a way by creating safety for your injured body instead of trying to achieve the next goal, which is mental. So your life becomes actually lived versus some sort of like mental game.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds great. But also, how do you do that with students or with people that you're working with? How do you explain that to them?
like, do you feel there is a lot of like goal-oriented practice? Obviously, because we're used to set up goals and like achieve goals. And
Well, yeah.
Do you watch
all the
people
time.
trying to chase goals, like in your?
We're talking about practice?
Yeah, in
of
your
course.
school.
People always people want the next posture. Ultimately, people want to put their legs behind their necks. They want to be able to sit in a perfect lotus and then stick their hands through it. People, it's like people are achievers. We all really want to achieve.
But do you think that's something like inbuilt in human beings, or that's because like we grew up here and like from like the moment you're 6 months old,
I'm sure it's a.
I think it's inbuilt.
Mix.
I think it's inbuilt.
But I don't know if it's about. I don't know if we're talking about like the humanity, but I think like a lot of it has to do with probably to some extent, yes, but it's also very. I think it's a cultural thing, so it has to do. I think like where in the world you're from. So it's very powerful. Here, it's very strong.
it's New York.
It's
all
stronger
about,
in New York versus in Mexico.
Yes. It's like I think people like take it, but they're like good things about it too. It's like people take, let's say, like we'll talk about asana practice, at least like Ashtanga, very seriously here. Okay,
Yeah.
they're dedicated. They show up early. They don't use time and the fact that practice is early in the morning as an excuse to not do it. Because once they've chosen to do this, they're showing up to it. So they're like, people are very goal oriented here, and they'll show up. Mexico, at least where I am, at this point, after doing it for 4 years, I do have a very small, dedicated group of people that do show up. And mind you, my practice starts at 7 a.m., not at 6. But for most people, it's very early for them.
Yeah.
So people, they'll say like, "Oh, it's really early," or "I went out last night." Much more than like in New York, we would have people lined up at a quarter to 6, 5:30. Sometimes people will be out the door waiting for the doors to open to come in. So people are very dedicated, but again, it has to do with dedicated to the goal. They decided that like this is what they want to do, and it's really important for them. And I think different people, choose it for different reasons.
But it's interesting because like the more people I talk to, everybody always has a reason why this happened to them. And what was your reason? What brought you into the yoga world?
What brought you into practicing yoga at the beginning?
My nagging roommate and friend.
Okay.
Yay! Nagging roommate friend.
Yeah, nagging roommate and a friend. Well, we lived on the Lower East Side. I think I did like one yoga practice in Tel Aviv many, many years before that. I went with a friend, and
you were living on Ludlow?
Yeah.
Okay, cute moment.
And I remember this. It was me and my friend, and this guy just led us through some stuff, and which was very difficult for me. And all I thought in my head was like, I'm never doing this again. I'm never doing this again.
And
all these
you were
movements.
like how old?
I was probably like in my 20s.
Okay.
And I felt like, oh my God, this is like being a ballerina. I don't want to be a dancer. I don't want to do these moves. And I was a smoker, so it was like very like I was a heavy smoker.
Yeah, how was your life then?
So it's kind of like it was like this. I don't want to do this. All I wanted to do was like I wanted to just smoke pot and smoke cigarettes and like whatever and be miserable. I enjoyed that. And so I'm living on Ludlow. I don't remember like what year this was. Probably like 97.
Wow.
And my friend...
Damn, Ludlow 97 is like hardcore stuff.
Two-pack sticks.
And so my friend and my roommate started going to practice.
Aww.
And immediately started saying like, oh my God, this is so amazing. You should really come. I'm like, yeah, no. You should really come. I was like, yeah, no. And at some point, like, oh my God, it's really amazing. You should just come try it. I was like, okay,
it was Ashtanga?
No, it wasn't.
It was just
yoga. It was what's her name? Alison West.
I don't know her.
And
hi, Allison.
Hi, Allison.
Shout out.
Yeah, Allison is quite a lady. Amazing. And I went to practice. I remember borrowing a pair of socks from my roommate, and there were these like short little socks. I was suffering from like my skin and my feet was horrible. I had like let's just call it athlete's foot, but it was probably some kind of a fungus, way more. It was covered. And so I borrowed these socks. I think they were white with red hearts on them. And I came with like long I think sweats, but kind of tight, and a long sleeve shirt. That's how I came to practice. I've never done yoga in my life. And the idea was that like I need to hide my feet. And it was really, really, really hard. And she immediately, in the middle of class, confronted me about why is it that I have socks on?
Oh.
And for me, it was huge. And I just said it would be, we can talk it between us after class. But of course, like my heart, I was like, she immediately was like,
All the hearts in your socks were going.
Yeah. I couldn't, as it was, I couldn't breathe, and that just added complete, like, total anxiety into it. Like, like, all my life, I was very self-conscious. With, like, I had a really bad body image. And then with that, I remember, like, I never wore sandals. And at some point, I had that fungus in my hands. I would hide my hands in my pockets. I remember sitting on the bus, having them between my legs, just hiding. I had a lot of shame with my body. And so for me, a part of, like, going to a yoga class was like saying yes to working with this.
How beautiful.
And then on my
facing
first
your fear.
Shadow.
Well, it wasn't thought through, but it seems that was the beginning of that. And so the first class I come to, and the first thing that she does is she's like, okay, why do you have socks on?
Of course.
And I'm like, I'll talk to you later. And then, like, so after class, she came to me and she's like, so what's going on? And I said, like, I have this fungus on my feet. I've had it since I was 4 years old, and I have issues with the way my feet. Can I see? So I took my socks off, and she says, like, you know what? If you wouldn't have told me, I wouldn't have noticed anything at all.
Aww.
And that's what she said. And she's like, you know what? Why don't you just try putting some tea tree oil on it? That was it. That was it at the end. What I wanted to say is, like, when we stepped out of the place into the street, I was walking on clouds. I was completely floating. I was floating, and, like, even then, and remember to this day, I had this smile on my face, but it wasn't a big smile. It was just like a serene. Remember, she used to tell us, like, in practice, she used to refer to it as a serene gaze. Everything about my face was serene. It was all calm. I felt like I just had a smile. And I walked, and now I can remember when I dropped acid the first time when I was 16.
Some of us know this feeling.
When I left my first yoga practice, I felt like when I dropped acid for the first time. And being a potential drug addict, because I never actually went full on, but I really love my drugs to this day, I was hooked instantly. I was like, oh, I want more of this. And so then on, that's it. I needed no more convincing. At that point, it was just once a week. So I was going to practice once a week. But it was a total addiction. And the thing is that it was the spiral. I was sucked into it. I was so, in hindsight, so hungry and ready to receive it. I was sucked into it, like, completely, but, like, so completely.
Isn't that, like, interesting? When we talked at the beginning of the part one, your choice versus where you get guided, where your soul, your subconscious takes you.
Yeah.
You made the choice to go to the yoga class that specific day, but maybe your subconscious or your soul or whatever guides you had already made that decision for you and made that happen. And you just chose when and how.
Supposedly I chose when, because, like, in the choice, and, like, it happens to me many times, I make choices and then I have realizations. And when I make a certain choice, what sometimes comes up in my memory is that a memory of that I was presented that a long, long, long time ago.
Yeah.
And I said no to it. And all of a sudden I see the people that came to me representing that choice, the option to choose something, where I didn't see them. I didn't see them.
You were not ready.
No, it's like whatever it is that, like, I needed to be open and seeing was not seeing. And, like, from then I totally understand that, like, and I speak about it. It's like it's all here all the time. Everything is in front of us all the time, and it's just a matter of
where your focus is.
When you're
ready to step through the door.
When you're ready to whatever it is that, like, then being ready. It's it can talk a lot of just that. What is being ready? Because we're already ready, but I'm already ready for everything, but I don't think that I am, and so if I don't think that I am, then I'm experiencing that I'm not. It's not that I'm not, but I'm having the experience that I'm not as a result. So
I see it like it's almost as if you have we have like clouds of ignorance that we're carrying in our fields, and so our readiness is kind of like interrupted by our burdens. So if we can let go of the burdens, then we can see life with more clarity, at which point we can progress faster by just saying yes more often to things that match us and saying no to things that are obstructions.
yes.
And I mean, we all have, everyone in this conversation has lived in New York at some point, and I see it often as like the subway doors. Like the subway doors will open, and that'll be like a window of fortune, and it's a one option that I can go down. And sometimes I won't go down that door. I won't get in the subway, and it'll close, and the subway will leave without me.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh man, I should have done that. But then also being upset and like kicking myself for missing the train helps me to jump through it the next time and understand that when they say, stand clear of the closing doors, that I need to jump through that door or it's going to close and leave without me. And also there's a trust that the doors will come and open again because of how many times I have watched like my karma present itself and then leave and then present itself again.
Yeah, I never believed in you have only one chance in life and you better take it. Like,
No.
I think chances and trains come constantly.
Yeah. But I like to do them fast because I'm just wasting time otherwise.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think there's wasting time. I just I refuse to see that. And that, the talk of like missing an opportunity is like, no, because like immediately another opportunity arises.
Like
I mean,
another
like,
train.
Yeah, well, the trains just
Yeah.
keep running. It's like, then like, the trains don't run for some reason, but then they run again. And, but again, that can be food for that, like part in you that becomes like completely passive, saying like, oh, don't worry about it, it'll happen when it'll happen. Don't take any action. Don't do anything because, there's like endless opportunities. You always have an opportunity. So, it becomes like food to that part that maybe if you think you don't want to feed. It's like you don't want to feed that part in you that's like, yeah, I'll do it later. Yeah, I'll do it later.
You always have to work hard no matter what.
Exactly.
Like, that's
so
the default.
Become completely lazy if
Well, guys, it's our time. I think we had another amazing conversation. It goes
time
fast.
to jump on a different train.
Yeah, exactly. It goes real fast. Well, Yozef, thank you, man. This has been
pleasure. Thank you so much.
mind-blowing. Alexis, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Giuseppe.
Yeah, thanks for inviting Yozef. That was awesome.
Yes.
I think we had an
Thank you
amazing...
for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. And we have an email that we never said. We're like 7-8 episodes down. It's yogisontheroad@gmail.com.
Yeah.
For anything.
If you guys want to talk to us for any reason.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Thank you. Bye.